Hello, everyone. This is Ken Quigley from Keystroke, and thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be demoing our latest Linktivity product. We're really excited about this one because we really think it fills a significant market need. Okay, but before I get into that, I just want to go through some standard housekeeping. Let me just I've got some kind of alarm going off. Okay, seems to be good. Okay, so let's go through some housekeeping things. I expect this to run between 30 and 45 minutes. We will have questions at the end. Um, I've booked this time for an hour, so if we don't need to use it all, I'd be happy to let you guys get back to your day. This event will be recorded and distributed to everyone that registered. Please submit any questions to the chat. Vic will be monitoring the chat, and when I pivot to him for questions, he'll let me know what is in the queue. Okay, now at the very end of the Link2mail demo, we are going to be covering, just reviewing some recent changes to some other Linktivity products, which I think will be of interest to you. Okay, so let's get started. This is the Linktivity website where we showcase all of our products. They're also featured on the Keystroke website, but this is our main Linktivity website where all the resellers, everything, it's our white labeled site that focuses strictly on Linktivity. So as you can see, all the products going across the top. We're going to click on Mail, okay, and Link2mail. So what is it? Link2mail is a reliable online method to record email history to act without the need of a plugin. What does that mean? Well, right now, virtually every single email integration is basically an Outlook integration. So what it does is it installs a plugin to Outlook, and we sell a very popular one called Act for Outlook. And it installs this plugin and it tracks all the email that is sent or received. Okay, and you've got all kinds of options that are available, but it is a plugin. Okay, and because of that, that doesn't work for everyone. Okay, so think of the people that can't use an Outlook plugin. Obviously, those are people that don't use Outlook, but use things like other email clients like Mailbird, Thunderbird, Udura, just the standard Windows Mail. Then there's other people that use webmail services, and I've got mine open here with Gmail. I've got another one that we have for the Keystroke mail. So there's all kinds of services that you can use. Obviously, Gmail's incredibly popular. Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail before it became Outlook.com, Yandex, and more. I think Yandex is Ymail. Other thing is people that use mobile devices. A lot of us consume a lot of our email, reply to a lot of our emails with mobile devices, whether they're iPads or phones. There's no plugins for those as well. So how do we record those? People that use Macs, I know, I pity them as well, but people that use Macs have no options for plugins either, because even though they may have Outlook in the Mac version, there is no Mac plugin, okay, that works with it. So the Mac users are left out. And then here's the last one, and this is one that we don't really think about that much because it is a lower use case, but people that have larger deployments really can be difficult to manage because not only do you have a large work group where, let's say that you've got 20, 30 users. Well, that's 20, 30 computers that you have to touch, that you have to install the plugin, that you have to maybe troubleshoot it, because we've all encountered at some time or another where there's been load behavior issues, or it just didn't interact with Outlook, or you needed to update because there was a newer version available. Whichever. All of these create overhead for the IT people or the Act administrator, and that overhead multiplied by 20, 30 can become quite a headache. So we created Link2mail to solve all of that. So let's go back to the home page. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just log in. I'm going to show you how to access it. We're going to give you a little tour, and then we're going to give you a demo. Okay, so here's the Link2mail or Linktivity website, linktivity.net. You've got your free trial. Now, if you have not set up any kind of account, then click on the free trial. That's how you register. Okay, I've obviously set this up, so I'm going to click on my account, log in. Okay, and now I've got all my applications down the side here. Okay, I've got my welcome screen. I've got link to calendar, link to events, link to forms. Some of these we're going to show you later. Link to list, I'm going to review some recent changes. Link to mail, link to quotes, link to shrink, and link to sync. Okay, so let's go up to link to mail. So here's the first thing that you're going to notice is that you've got a handy setup guide. Okay, this is always surfaced. You can dismiss it, but it's always available. And this is easily referenced. So you can kind of go through every conceivable thing that you'll need for setup. So you don't need to, necessarily record everything on this demo. Okay. Now, the next thing is just to kind of review what we've got on the screen. We've got the web API settings. Now, when we click on the web API settings, we actually end up over here. Okay, but I'm just going to do that. Okay, so this goes to our web API settings. I'm going to come back to this later, but this is what you've got to set up before you set up anything. So none of the Linktivity products can work with this. And once you set it up, it will work for all of them. Okay, back to Link2mail. Okay, now I am currently monitoring 2 email accounts. So what you'll do is you'll add in all the email accounts. It's going to show you the number of active subscriptions you've got here. Okay, but I've got 2 email accounts being monitored. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that actually means in a little bit, but let's get into the settings. Now, firstly, this is what we call our main dashboard. So here's the email accounts being monitored, and over here is kind of a grid view of your settings. So what this means is inbound is not being monitored. Okay, I've never been a big fan of monitoring inbound email. Outbound is being monitored. Okay, details. What this means, SB, is subject and body. Okay, so subject and body is being monitored. OAuth means that if you've got Gmail accounts or Office 365 or something that you're monitoring, then it will give you the OAuth status, okay, and indicate here that it's configured that way. And you'll see what that means in a minute. But let's go into the settings. Okay, so the settings here are divided into top and bottom. The top is your general link to mail settings, and then below is going to be your defaults. Remember I said that this is really useful for big deployments? Well, if someone's going to be setting up 20 or 30 of them, they really don't want to be setting up the same settings over and over again. So what you'll do is you'll set up your defaults here, and then every single account you create after that will be set up with those same configurations. So let's look at this. First of all, the sync interval. I'm going to show you in a minute what the little Windows utility looks like. Okay, but basically what this means is it's going to scan your mailboxes every 5 minutes. Okay, and if it finds anything new, it's going to reconcile it with your database, and it will attach histories to the appropriate contacts. Okay, now all of this is happening via the Act Web API, so you do need a subscription for this. Okay, an Act Premium subscription or Act Premium Cloud. Now the next one, you'll see features here that we brought over from Act for Outlook, some very popular features. So mail settings. So what this means is attach mail to users. A lot of people, I think it was like 2000 and maybe 15 or maybe a little bit earlier, they enabled the option within Act to prevent you from recording histories between users, okay? And the fear was obviously that there might be some confidential HR information that's exchanged back and forth that other users that it might pertain to can see in the history. So this is an option. I've selected yes, record it. Blacklisted domains. There may be domains that I use strictly for personal use or accounting use, and I don't want it recorded to history. So I've listed here AOL.com and SwiftPage.com. Any emails that get sent to those, I don't want included. Now, what is an exclusion field? Well, if you enable this option and then select a field, then what you can do in Act and then set what the default value is you can have a field in Act that specifies, I don't want any email ever sent to this contact ever attached to history. Okay, it could be a relative, it could be you know, a medical professional or something like that. It's just not related to what you record history for. So what you can do is you can just enable a field here. And because of the API connection, it's going to show you all your available fields. And then you put in that field, it could be anything, just, you know, don't attach. Okay. And I recommend a drop down so that you don't spell it differently or phrase it differently. But then in your ACT database, let me just bring this around here. So 1 second. Okay. And then in your ACT database, you can have like a field here. This is a field we call castle. Okay. And that blocks emails if we put in denied. So I can use this one and I can say, put in denied here. I'm not going to do that because that will kill this demo. Okay. So let me just confirm what that field is called. It's called contact permission. Okay. And then I can select contact permission and put in denied. Okay. And then when I do that, no email will ever be attached to that contact through this service. Okay. Incoming and outgoing, obviously you can determine what you want to do, record. As I said, I'm not a big fan of incoming because I like to have some control over what goes into the database. And then here's the attachment options: none, subject, subject body, subject attachment, subject body, and attachments. Okay, there's no right answer for this. Incoming history type will be email attachment. Outgoing history type will be email sent. And this is strictly how you want it recorded in the history. Okay, I'm going to remove this again, click on save and close. And that's it for the settings. Okay, so now let's take a look at what the, you know, setting up an email account looks like. Okay, so at the very top, this is really important because we have to have the ACT user, like each ACT user with each email account set up. So this has to be set up by an administrator and obviously someone that's trusted. So every single one, you're going to have to say, okay, you see how this is grayed out? This is the web API and database information because that's stored over here, but this is the login information. So this particular user is he is going to be the author of the history that gets recorded to ACT, and then their password, you can test the connection. And then here is your email account settings. So make no mistake, anyone that's setting this up is going to need to know your email settings. Now, in most cases, that's going to be done by an office administrator that already has access to that information, but just be mindful of that, okay? The 3 email types are IMAP, Office 365, and Gmail, okay? So those are your 3 options. I'm using, in this case, just my standard IMAP account. And then I've got IMAP hostname, which is mail.keystroke.ca. Most of the times an SSL account outbound port will be 993. My username is my email. I put in my password. It's going to blank it out, obviously, after it's saved. You select the security type, and then you click on test connection, okay? And then it will confirm whether or not it's a valid connection. Now, remember I said about the defaults? Over here is where it's picking up all the defaults, and it's saying use global, record incoming, use global as no, record outgoing, use global as yes, details to record, use global as subject. If you want to change for any particular person, they have a different preference. Remember, it is a default, it's not a rule, and you can just save it and that will work, okay? So now you click on save and close. So you've set up your first email account, okay? Now let me just back up and explain that anyone that is doing this for all the users, you have to have, like, let's say you've got 5 people in your company, you do not want 5 people setting up Linktivity accounts. It needs to be 1 person setting up all their emails here, okay? And the reason for that is, and I'll show you in a minute, is there is a little Windows utility that gets installed once, okay? And if you do it so that every single person is using their own Linktivity account, then you're setting up 5 separate utilities to monitor the email flow, and that begins to defeat the purpose, okay? You wanna have 1 utility managing them all, and you just put in all the users' accounts here. So there's a couple of advantages of that, aside from just having one email utility. The other thing is you can manage your subscriptions a lot easier. And with our utility, with our service, the more accounts you buy, the more you save. So the first 1 to 5 is standard retail price, 5 to 10, you get 5% off, 10 to 20, you get 10% off, so on and so forth. So something like this is something that you could end up buying a fair number of, and you want to aggregate them all under one purchase so that you can get your maximum savings. Okay, so covering that, let's quickly go through. Once we've got all that set up, we've got to set up the utility for the Windows utility. Okay, now I'm going to bring this up on the screen. This is what it looks like. Okay, very simple. I want to show you that there is absolutely nothing to configure here. Okay, you've got to start, stop, and restart, close, and then this on-demand sync, and I'll explain that in a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to type in Link2mail, pops up. Where is it? Okay. Now it's here. Now, you see, I wanted to exit out of this so that you can see the API key. So the moment you're done, you're going to select the API key, click on here, okay, click on copy API key. You're going to download the utility here and paste it in. That's a one-time thing. Nothing you will ever need to configure again. Now, which computer should this Windows utility be installed on? It doesn't really matter other than make sure it's a computer that it's installed on all the time, okay, and that has reliable internet. That's it. It doesn't need to have Act installed. It doesn't need to be on the same network as the Act database. It could be any computer. Okay, so if you've got an entire Mac business and you've got one guy at home with a reliable desktop computer, you can run it off that. Okay, doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to click on login. Okay, now because I shut that down does not mean that it stopped. Okay, all it did was this interface logged out. It runs as a service, and this little status is running was always running. Okay, so what does this do? Well, you saw back in the settings, every 5 minutes. Okay, so what this does is this scans the accounts that are configured here, and it watches for any email activity. And when it finds any, then it will check against the database. If it recognizes an email account, it will write it through the API to your database instantly. Okay, so, and it right now we've got it configured to run, as I said, every 5 minutes. So what I've done here, I'm gonna bring over, I've created a record, a duplicate record of my account, and I've put in my my Gmail account. And you can see, obviously, I've had a bunch of successful tests at 254, 246, another one at 246. Okay, all of these. Now, what I'm going to do, okay, I'll just do one last quick view refresh. Okay, so the last one was at 255 with the subject 254. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in to my webmail, and I am going to click on compose, and I'm going to type in Ken Quigley at Gmail, test at 3:19 p.m. Okay. Send. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now I could do two things at this point. I can click on Sync Now, which will force a scan of the mail server, okay? But I'm gonna actually just let it run, let it do its thing, okay? And it should capture it in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So while it's doing that, and by the way, the only risk of clicking on Sync Now is that you're kind of, you're telling it to sync every 5 minutes, and then you're forcing a sync in between. So there is a chance when you use this too much, okay, that you can create duplicate histories. But the idea is that this is going to run in the background and you'll likely never even see this running. And that, once you set it up, you'll forget it and it will just keep going. Okay. So this is not something that, needs to ever be configured. Okay. So let's go back to the Linktivity settings. So just quickly, here's where you download the Windows utility. Here's where you grab the API key. Now, why do we have reset? If for whatever reason that computer that you've set up the Windows utility gets a little unreliable, okay, or it's going to be decommissioned for whatever reason, you can then move it. So what you'll do is you'll uninstall it, you'll download this utility again to the new computer, reset the API key, okay, it will then give it to you, you'll click on copy and you'll paste it into that new computer. That other utility then is done. Okay, and uninstall it, close the computer, whichever, it's all done. Okay, now that is kind of it for the Link2mail side. So let me pause and see, Vic, do we have any questions?
No, none at this time.
Great. Okay, so let's quickly go through some of the recent improvements that we've added to the into our programs. Okay. The first one I want to talk to about is Link2List. Link2List has actually been around for a fairly long time, okay? And what it does is it basically, it's for anyone that does a lot of e-marketing, okay? And when you do e-marketing, you have to reliably test your distribution list to make sure that they are valid. We know that over the last few years, a ton of people's emails have, due to layoffs and things like that, business closures, a lot of emails that had been tested as reliable are no longer reliable. So if you are going to be doing email marketing, whether through Act Marketing Automation or third-party services, they typically allow a 5% bounce rate, like up to a 5% bounce rate. If you're consistently above that, then they will warn you. And if you remain consistently above that, they can either suspend or cancel your account. And that applies with Act as well. Okay. So what have we done recently? So this grid view now shows you, because you can set your scans to run automatically, this will show you your scan logs. Okay. So the last run was on March 16th. It scanned 5,661, 235 were deemed to be valid, and 5,294 were skipped. That means that 5,294 were skipped because they had already been scanned. Okay, now you've got two options whenever you scan something. You can either say ignore and just scan it anyway. Obviously, there's going to be a cost to Bright Verify for that because you have to get a Bright Verify subscription. Because Link2List basically, all it does is it integrates the Bright Verify email database with your Act database and updates your Act database accordingly. Okay, so if you're constantly scanning the same email addresses over and over again, you're basically paying to scan them over and over again. If it skips them, there is no cost. So be mindful that probably once every 6 months or once a year at the worst, you should be scanning all your distribution groups. Okay. Okay. So then let's just go here. Okay. Then the next one. Well, actually, I can show you here that the email that we sent at 319 got recorded. Okay. Test at 319. So you can see that that was sent from webmail, okay, with no plugin whatsoever, and it's still recorded fine. There's no Outlook running or anything like that. So that shows you that it works, and it will just always run in the background for you, regardless of what webmail service you want, which is Gmail, AOL, whichever. It just runs in the background, and it's kind of great because it's just recording and you can worry about anything else. Okay. Now, let's quickly go up to the other features. Okay, I'm going to go over here for Link to Calendar. So one of the things that we did recently with Link to Calendar is we started recording all the submissions of people when they booked an appointment. Previously, we had just written it directly to Act. Okay, now we actually record them on the Linktivity side. And the reason that we do that is that we can now send out reminders. Okay, so I've configured my settings to send out a reminder an hour before any given meeting. Okay, and this is what my email reminder looks like. It's completely customized. Okay, and you'll see here where it says go to Ken Quigley, that is my virtual room. Okay, so every single time that someone books a meeting with me, they're sent an invite with an ICS file saying, please join me at this link. And I put that in the reminder just so that an hour before people get that reminder as well. Okay, and here's a bunch of merge fields that you can use to customize it even further. Okay. And then the last feature, okay, link to shrink. What is link to shrink? A lot of people, aside from having a funny name, which makes our program coordinator smirk every single time I mention it, link to shrink is basically a method for taking long URLs and then reducing them to shorter URLs that you can use inside of social media. You can create them to be far more memorable, things like this. So you could see long things here, and then you could see that I've created a very, very short URL for this, okay? And what it also has is tracking. So you can see here that the link to calendar shopping cart item, okay, we've got we've got categories, remarks, the shortened URL, but you can also see that this one has been clicked through 371 times. Now, in addition to shortening, you're also getting detailed statistical breakdown of what people are using to consume the links, what the referral sites are, and you can see what is working the best. Okay, so that is how link to shrink works. Previously, we had used a feature called Bitly, or a service called Bitly, but what we found is that inside of our linktivity system, there's all kinds of utilities. So let's go to this particular event. Okay, so we had 49 people register for this. If I wanted to create copy short URL, I can generate a short URL just for this event, okay? Whereas otherwise, it's going to be something very, very long, okay? So it's just one little utility. It's not that expensive, and typically most people only need one account per account. So it's like $60 for your whole business per year. And you can use it with any of the internal linktivity services like Link to Calendar, Link to Events, Link to Forms, or even Link to Quotes, or you can use it with external services like what I showed you before, where I'm referring to keystroke shopping carts and blogs, GoToMeeting links, and things like that. Okay, so I see we have a question. Okay, if you switch to Link2mail, can you still access old emails that were previously saved using Outlook and Act for Outlook? So what is already recorded to history, remember Act for Outlook just is a plugin that will write the email from Outlook to your contacts. So if you uninstall Act for Outlook, all the history that's been written will still be there. There's not some kind of dynamic link that keeps that history recording sustained. So it's already written, okay, and nothing can take that back again. So I think I answered your question. If I didn't, then please correct me, okay? But I want to be careful to note here, guys, that Link2mail operates completely online, okay? Because of that, there are certain Act for Outlook features that are not available, okay? Like for instance, create a contact, create an activity, okay? Or anything that requires you to pop up, when you get it, when you send an email and it says, hey, this email isn't recognized, do you want to create a contact? Well, this is meant to run in the background. So anything that requires human intervention isn't going to be an available feature. So there is some advantages to the plugins, okay? But this service is made for people that don't have that plugin as an option, because I can tell you we've had an increasing number of people that, and they really kind of divide into two. One, they're G Suite users that want to have nothing to do with Outlook, or two, they're Mac users where they're consuming Act via Act Premium Cloud, but they've got no plugin support for it. Okay, so this addresses both of them. Obviously, Hotmail users, Outlook.com, AOL, Yahoo, all of those things have got the same advantages. So I hope that I answered your question. Vic, anything else?
I can't see any of the questions right now.
Okay. So Sylvia asked, let's say a staff left the company and then come back. If you delete an email account in Link2mail, can you retrieve this? Nope, you're going to have to recreate it. But Sylvia, you bring up an excellent point. What you can do is if you purchase subscriptions and someone leaves, them leaving and coming back isn't the most common so much as someone leaving and you needing to hire another person in their place. So once you remove that email account and add in someone else's, you can then apply that subscription to them. Okay, so it's not just going to keep ticking down. You can apply it immediately afterwards, and that way you're not wasting your money. Okay, but there isn't a way of retrieving an account after it's deleted online. Interesting question. Anything else? Okay, well, we did very well with our timing. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, ken@kqc.ca. I'm happy to answer any of your Linktivity questions. We're really excited about this feature. Just think about how it might work within it. If you are an existing Outlook user and you're using Act for Outlook, there's no need to change, okay? But if you've suffered any kind of pain points around a plugin behavior or expanding the groups and not wanting to have management of all the plugins remotely, then this is a terrific option. And it also allows you to incorporate, we have Mac users in our group, it allows us to incorporate them in as well so they get reliable email history recorded to Act. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. I'll let everyone get back to their day. Thanks for registering. I will send out the email recording tomorrow once it's all done. And I appreciate your time and have a great day. Bye-bye.